First of all, I totally thought I was going to be preaching to like 10 people this morning when I first arrived. It's hard to compete with the snow and a hockey game, so thank you for coming. And just to carry on with the announcements, I too am not a competitive person, and I too would not want to rub it in. So I will not do that about all the women that are registered at 51 that will probably max out at capacity soon. So please register for next Saturday, February 28th. It's going to be at 10 a.m. at St. George's. It's going to be a wonderful time. I can't tell you how excited I am about it. Just really sense as we've been praying about it that there's such an invitation to come and drink from the water that is Jesus. So please come, those who are thirsty. Some people have invited like 3 or 4 people. Like, it's amazing. We're going to have such a great group of women together. So please come. If you're on the fence about coming, don't be on the fence. Just come, because I would really like to end up doubling the number that the men's had at their gathering. The other thing that I'm mentioning is coldest night of the year. So last year we were involved with this initiative, and some of you have probably been walking with different organizations who do coldest night of the year, and we've partnered. Darren and I have been doing work with homeless kids, with organizations that try to get kids off the streets. And this year we're going to be walking with the Refuge in Oshawa. And it is also on February 28th in the evening at 4 p.m. So if you are interested in just being a walker, or if you would like to donate to a wonderful cause that we stand behind as a church, please see Darren number 1, and I will make sure an email gets out to everyone with a link for your support. So thank you. That's coldest night of the year. And so if you are visiting or you haven't been paying attention, we are continuing a series called Shadows of the Substance. And I will tell you, at first, Corey, I wasn't sure about the title. And the reason is those of you who know me, I'm renowned for rewriting the community group questions, because if I feel like something is not clear and concise and to the point, I will rewrite it. But I will tell you that as we've been doing this series from the beginning, I am falling more and more in love with this title. So, high five, Corey. I just feel like as we've been studying all these different times in the Old Testament, as we've been looking back, the picture of Jesus in the Old Testament has become clearer and clearer. And I don't know about you, but does any of you remember when we were young, there used to be these, I'm sure they're around now, those red lens pictures. They were like a red squiggly lines. You couldn't figure out what it was until you put on those flimsy, almost looked like 3D glasses that had red lenses. And then as soon as you looked at the picture, then all of a sudden you could see the coded message or the words or the image became clear when you put on these lenses. Well, I feel like as we've been looking back at the Old Testament and we're looking at it through the lens of the gospel, through the lens of Jesus, all of a sudden, some of these passages that were black and white are becoming technicolor. It's like the life and the hope and the plans of God are bursting through these passages that really some of us have likely kind of brushed through. I don't know about you. Whose favorite book is Leviticus and the book of Numbers? Show of hands. Yeah, if you're putting up your hand, you and I, we'll just sit down and chat, and that's great, good on you, but that's a book that I've avoided. And why have I avoided it? Well, because I don't have any context for it, right? So when we're looking back at some of these passages, and there's a lot of rules, there's a lot of regulations, there's a lot of sacrifices, and there is a lot of blood. Oh my gosh, the blood. There's blood talking about it all the time. And so for us, we're like, ooh, gross. But now it's taking on meaning. It's taking on purpose when you see it through the lens of the gospel. So we're going to continue that today. But before I do, next question. Who has seen the movie The Fugitive? Anyone seen the movie The Fugitive? So it's a classic movie. Harrison Ford, if any of you do not know who Harrison Ford is, shame on you. Indiana Jones, go look it up. But it's a classic movie where Harrison Ford is convicted and sentenced for the death of his wife. He is accused of murdering her, and he's innocent. And to make a long story short, basically, he escapes, and he's on the run this entire movie. He is fleeing for his life the entire movie. And there is the law, represented by Tommy Lee Jones. Tommy Lee Jones is the marshal who is relentlessly chasing Harrison Ford. And there is this scene, and I don't know if it's the Hoover Dam, but it's a dam. They're in this dam, and there's darkness and water, and they're chasing, and oh my goodness, is he around the next corner? It's a very intense scene. But there is a moment when Tommy Lee Jones loses his footing. Harrison Ford grabs the gun, points it at him. And Tommy Lee Jones is like this. And instead of shooting him, Harrison Ford said, "I didn't kill my wife." And those of you who remember what Tommy Lee Jones says, "I don't care." Remember that? He says, "I don't care." And then at the end of the scene, he's cornered. He either has to jump off this dam to the waters below or turn himself in. And what does he do? Well, he jumps off because he's Harrison Ford. And I'm not going to tell you how it ends. Go watch the movie. But the point is, it gives a really good picture of the desperation of the accused and justice without mercy, which gives us a taste of what we're going to look at today. Are you ready? So we're going to look back some 3,500 years ago, where God set up 6 cities of refuge. So this is just when the nation of Israel is getting established. It's just getting on its feet. And he set up these 6 cities of refuge. And he set in place as a shadow that points to the who is. You're going to get this by the end of today. So you've been paying attention. There'll be a test later. Okay. So we're going to start actually in Hebrews 6. So let's read Hebrews 6, 17 to 19, should be behind me, and it goes like this. So when God desired to show more convincingly to the heirs of the promise the unchangeable character of his purpose, he guaranteed it with an oath, so that by 2 unchangeable things, in which it is impossible for God to lie, we who have fled for refuge, take note of that, might have strong encouragement to hold fast to the hope set before us. We have this as a sure and steadfast anchor of the soul, a hope that enters into the inner place behind the curtain where Jesus has gone as a forerunner on our behalf, having become a high priest after the order of Melchizedek. Did I mention at the beginning we're studying Jesus as high priest and refuge? Because that's what we're doing. Okay, good. So this is a passage brimming with hope. But what's really important to note here is the language used when it said fled for refuge. It's the same language that's referring to a very specific kind of fleeing that we find in the book of Numbers, chapter 35. So I'm going to give you some context. Last week, Doug talked about the Israelites, and the Israelites are in the desert, and we know the story. They fled out of Egypt. They're in the desert for 40 years. He provides for them. He is their provider and sustainer, and they are just about to enter in to the promised land that they have been waiting for. God then speaks to Moses and gives him a very long list of instructions, including how to divide the land between the 12 tribes and how to live as a chosen people. Lots of instructions, lots of rules, the law. Okay? But then he specifically introduces 6 special cities that were given to the Levites to live in. So I want to take a look at this. So this is Numbers 35, verses 1 and 2, and 12 to 16. Here we go. The Lord spoke to Moses in the plains of Moab by the Jordan at Jericho, saying, "Command the people of Israel to give to the Levites some of the inheritance of their possession as cities for them to dwell in. And you shall give to the Levites pasture lands around the cities." Verses 12 to 16. "The cities shall be for you a refuge from the avenger, that the manslayer may not die until he stands before the congregation for judgment. And the cities that you give shall be your 6 cities of refuge. You shall give 3 cities beyond the Jordan, 3 cities in the land of Canaan to be your cities of refuge. These 6 cities shall be for refuge for the people of Israel, for the stranger, and for the sojourner among them, that anyone who kills any person without intent may flee there." So let me introduce these characters a little bit more in this passage. So we have the Levites. They were to dwell in these cities. The Levites were a very distinct tribe. Some of you might know they were dedicated to the service of the Lord. That was their whole purpose. So in the cities, they were responsible for worship. They were responsible for taking care of whatever the spiritual needs of the people might be. They did not get their own land. They did not get an inheritance of land, okay? God was their inheritance. So that's why God gave them these cities in all the different parcels of land that he had given to the other tribes. Verse 12, the cities shall be for you a refuge from the avenger, that the manslayer may not die. So we have a manslayer. Who is a manslayer? Someone who kills unintentionally. It's actually where we get the term manslaughter from in our justice system. It's manslayer. So this is very specific. It was not a premeditated murder that he's talking about. It was an unintentional murder. Stay with me. Now we have the avenger. I'm sorry, anybody young here? I'm using words like manslaughter, and manslayer, and avenger. I hope you're paying attention. The avenger is the Goel Hadam. This is a fascinating word. The Goel Hadam is the avenger of blood. Kind of sounds like a really gritty superhero, but he is called the blood avenger. The word Goel is the same word we have from kinsman redeemer. Okay, so it's kinsman redeemer. It literally means blood redeemer. I'm going to explain why you need to know this and why it's important in a second. So let me set a scene for you. We're living in a city in Israel now. We've gone to our city. And we have Michael. Michael is building a wall in the city. He's doing his job. And he accidentally, while he's building his wall, drops a brick, which lands on David. David died. We have dead David, and we have Michael the manslayer. He had no intention of killing him. So Michael is now very much aware that his life is in danger. Because at that time, if you spilled blood, you could not go down to the scene of the crime and plead for mercy and say, I didn't mean it was an accident, I'm so sorry, even though you might have all those feelings and want to do that. At that time, blood was sacred. It was a blood guilt culture. If you take blood, you owe me blood. It is an eye for an eye, a life for a life. So Michael is the manslayer. Michael the manslayer knows his life is in jeopardy. He girds his loins, and he starts running. Okay? He's running for a city of refuge now. So then we have John. John is dead David's brother. Are you with me? John. John is told by his family what's happened. He sees that his brother is dead. He now is the Goel Hadam. It is now his duty. And yes, it might be out of anger, and he might be upset to go after this guy, but it is seen as his duty to redeem the blood that was spilled. So he draws his sword, he sees what direction Michael the manslayer went, and he goes after him. He is going to avenge the blood. So, Michael the manslayer's on the run. Now, I really wanted to paint a picture for you here, and it's best for me to show you pictures. They're going to be quite big and on the screen behind me. Just take a moment. I want you to take in the scene that you're seeing, because it explains so much better than I can say the emotion and the intensity of what would have been happening at that time. You're going to see their body language. I want you to see the desperation and the arms outstretched like you're racing for this, because you know if you stop for a minute, you're dead. The intensity of the avenger behind with the sword in hand. Like it was a desperate run for your life to a city of refuge. Joshua 20, verse 4 says this: He shall flee to one of these cities and shall stand at the entrance of the gate of the city and explain his case to the elders of the city. Then they shall take him into the city and give him a place, and he shall remain with them. So the word refuge from city of refuge is quite unique. There are a lot of different Hebrew words that describe refuge as we would know it to mean. But this word miklat is the word. Means this. It means to receive, absorb in, take in someone for protection. It means asylum. And it's actually a legal term. So legally, when someone enters into that city of refuge, they are protected. So that city receives the manslayer, protects him from the avenger of blood, and holds him until justice is rightly determined. And if you aren't connecting the dots yet, you will in a minute, so stay with me. The manslayer wasn't escaping justice. This is what's so interesting. He was literally being kept alive under mercy while the truth was being established. A life that would otherwise be taken is absorbed into mercy. So there's a gentleman that I found, his name is Dr. John Barnett. He has this really incredible ministry called Discover the Book Ministries, and he did this in-depth study on the cities of refuge, and I've taken some points that I want to share with you from that study, and I'm going to put a map up on the wall behind me. I want to show you some fascinating facts. I know it's a map. Maps can't be exciting, but just let me make it exciting for you. So everybody awake. Is everybody here with me? Good. Okay. See a map. You're going to see 6 cities. They should be starred. Right? Everybody sees them. Here is what is fascinating. I'm going to give you some characteristics of these cities. Just note where they are on the map. Number 1, they were easily accessible. You will see that there's 3 on the west side of the Jordan and 3 on the east side of the Jordan. God planned this out so that no matter where you were in the nation of Israel, you could run to a city of refuge in under 1 day's travel. So there's about 30 or 32 miles, from no matter where you are in the country, you could get to a city of refuge in under 1 day's travel. And remember, no cars. I didn't see anybody with a horse in my pictures. Maybe there were. But most of the time, they are literally running on foot to these cities of refuge. Easily accessible. Moses didn't plan that. Joshua didn't plan that. God pre-planned that and chose those cities for his people. Okay? Number 2, they are open to anyone. Whether you were a Jew or a Gentile, a foreigner, a traveler, if you ended up in this situation, there was no requirement of race or religion. Everyone was welcome and had access to this city. Okay? And there's some traditional Jewish writings that I was checking out by historians, and they had recorded about these cities of refuge that the doors were never locked, always open. The gates were always open, and they were never locked. And I love that because that would be great news for the manslayer, right? Because can you imagine running straight for a day, getting the guy hot on your heels, and then you die at the gate because you can't get in? Always open. They were always, always open. And the bottom line is that God introduced his mercy through these cities while justice still remained. His law and his justice still remained, but he introduced mercy with these cities of refuge. It's quite incredible. And it goes on from there. The names of the cities. I want to just take a moment to just go through some of the names of the cities with you. And of course, in Hebrew culture, names were just not a name, right? Names had meaning. They had purpose. You name your child, you don't just name them after the musician that you like at the time. It instilled purpose and meaning into their life. And so the names of the city had significance. So I'm going to just take a look. There's 6, but I'm just taking a look at 4. It's really quite cool. You should be connecting some dots now, but here we go. The first one is Kadesh. It means holy place or righteousness. When we come to Christ, he gives us his righteousness and forgives all our sins. Jesus is a refuge for the unclean. Shechem means shoulder. And in Christ we find a resting place and a friend on whom we can lay our burdens. Jesus is a refuge for the weary. Hebron means fellowship. And in Jesus, we now have fellowship with him, with God, and with other believers. Jesus is a refuge for the homeless. And Bezer means a stronghold or fortress. He is our protection and safety. Jesus is a refuge for the helpless. So hopefully you are getting a picture of how these cities of refuge are a shadow of the, which is... Oh my gosh, you're getting it. So these cities give us such a clear picture of Jesus with his arms wide open. Doors are never locked. He is always accessible. He is our refuge and he has secured our safety. And there is a lesson for us here. We are not fleeing because we're afraid of what's behind now. We are fleeing because of who we are heading towards. We're not afraid of what's behind but we're desperate for who is ahead. Catch the difference? This is a heart posture that we must have, of actively running towards. And that only comes with an intimate awareness of how much we need him. You're not going to actively run towards something you don't think you want or need or care to go. You're going to run towards him because you know in and of yourself you cannot do this life alone. You actively run towards this refuge. And this is where we get to Jesus as a high priest. This is where all the pieces fall into place. Joshua 20, verse 6 says this, "And he shall remain in that city until he has stood before the congregation for judgment, until the death of him who is high priest at the time. Then the manslayer may return to his own town and his own home, to the town from which he fled." So the city of refuge was a place of mercy, but it was a place of limitation. The manslayer was safe and not free. So when you see him entering into that city of refuge, there would be a congregation. He would have a trial, and he would be proven innocent. That's great. But he could not leave the city, because the moment that he left the city, the blood avenger, if he happened to bump into him or he was waiting for him, could still kill him. By law, he would be allowed to do that. So he must stay within that city until the death of the high priest. Dots should be connecting, people. It was only when the high priest died, the manslayer could go home. And I'd like to imagine Michael the manslayer, and we don't know how long Michael the manslayer would have been in the city of refuge. Could be weeks. It could be years. It might have been a young high priest at the time. He had to wait for him to die. There is this interesting point. I didn't put it in my notes, but I thought it was fascinating. In Jewish writings, it said that oftentimes the mother of the high priest would feed the manslayer just so they wouldn't pray for the death of the guy. So like feeding them, hoping, please don't pray for his death. I don't want him to die yet, because he was waiting for his death. So it's only when the high priest died that the manslayer could go home. Can you imagine that moment? Like, just put yourself in that position. You've been in the city, literally imprisoned, and all of a sudden you hear the news, the high priest has died. You're free. I can imagine it would be like someone who had a life sentence and someone walked into the prison and said, "You're free to go." Really? I can go home? Really? I can go home. They would have left everything. There's no pictures of them with luggage or anything with them. They left their families. They left everything. They left everything and ran. So all of a sudden, in that moment when the high priest died, they were fully restored and able to go home. Why? Why the high priest, you ask? Well, let me tell you. Couple of things. First, before I get there, what we need to know about the manslayer's freedom. Here are 4 points I want to point out. The manslayer's freedom was not tied to his behavior. He did not earn his freedom by good behavior, by doing what was right, by being in the approval of the Levites. It was not earned that way. His freedom was not tied to time served. He didn't get a sentence of 10 years, and he did his sentence, and he was free to go home. His freedom was not tied to repayment, as if a slave who earned their freedom and worked off money owed so they could be free. He did not repay his debt. It is strictly and solely tied to the death, someone else's death. So the high priest at the time was the spiritual representative of all the people. Mike talked about it, so did Chris, about all the roles that the high priest played. He was the mediator. We talked about that. He was the mediator between God and the people. His life was bound, literally bound, to the spiritual state and the standing of the nation. So when he died, something changed for everyone. It brought complete freedom, not parole, and the manslayer could return home without fear. The full price was paid, and the avenger's claim was null and void the moment the high priest died. It's like the land was washed clean of all spilt blood, washed clean when he died. And the nation started again. And Jesus completes what the high priest only shadowed. Let me repeat that. Jesus completes what the high priest shadowed. Hebrews 9 verse 12 says this: He entered once for all into the holy places, not by means of the blood of goats and calves, but by means of his own blood, thus securing an eternal redemption. See, Christ doesn't die and then get replaced by another high priest. And he didn't have to die over and over again. He died once and now lives forever. So our refuge is forever found in him. Amen? And unlike the city, our restoration isn't a return to a physical home. We are fully restored, and Jesus becomes our home. It's incredible. So I want to take you back to the verse where we started in Hebrews 6, verse 18 and 19. We who have fled for refuge might have strong encouragement to hold fast to the hope set before us. We have this as a sure and steadfast anchor of the soul, a hope that enters into the inner place behind the veil. You see, there is an invitation for us today. I love this word hope in this passage. It's a clinging hope. It's a hope that inspires deeper trust. It's a hope that causes us to cling to Jesus. And when the storms come, and they do, we are anchored. Our soul is anchored. We won't be moved. So here is the invitation. Run to him, not from him. Check your anchor. If you are relying on anything other than him to keep you secure, you will be moved. The law told Israel, and I'm landing the plane, people, I'm landing the plane. The law told Israel to run and hide inside a city until the high priest died. The gospel tells us to run to Christ, whose death has already secured our freedom and whose life guarantees our future. We're not hiding from God, we're hidden in him. The refuge has moved from stone walls to a pierced body, from a temporary shelter to an eternal anchor behind the veil. And we will move into a time of communion because it's what we do. So I will invite the ushers who are going to hand the communion and the worship team to come back up on the stage. And as we prepare our hearts to take communion, I'll ask you to think a couple of things. Are we running to him? And if we're not, who are we running to? Perhaps you've been sitting a little too long. And I got to tell you, that's like me. If you feel tired and complacent, and if you feel like I've been a Christian a long time, I'm good. I pray that you would have a revelation of how amazing this miracle is. And that you would know that we need to be running to him. It's an active participation. We come under his mercy, and that's the miracle. We should never take it for granted, ever.